You know, someone told me a long time ago, a good friend who'd kind of been through this before, they were like, don't worry about the reviews, don't worry about, you know, what people say when they play the game, don't worry about social media, just really think about the journey. Far Cry is about as epic a blockbuster as it gets. Its history goes back years, with each title building upon the last. But what's special, I think, is that over time you can see all the elements that come together to form its DNA. Whether it's an open world where anything can happen, or a twisted antagonist that has just enough logic to what they're saying.
Of insanity.
Maybe most of all, the journey of someone trying to figure out not only how to survive in chaos, but ask the question, are we human or are we animals looking to be on top? For Far Cry 6, we want to take that history, all those elements, mix it together to create as epic a Far Cry as we can, but with characters who will bring you along for the ride of their own personal journey. And for us, to be given a chance to lead on this project, with so many different studios working together for the same goal, it's any creator's dream.
I just sort of felt it right from the beginning that we had an opportunity to tell a story that was meaningful. Not necessarily have it just be an FPS or just be a Far Cry game, but also absorb what's happening in the world around us. And, you know, we wanted to embolden the writers, embolden the creators to put as much of themselves in the characters in the story as possible. And I think it goes back to that, you know, first moment where it clicked that, you know, we're gonna tell a story about Revolution.
Castillo's got, what, 300,000 troops? I count 6 burnt-out guerrillas, and you with a bullet to the leg.
You can shoot, so shoot.
I was actually just wrapping up on Far Cry Primal, and I was pulled into a room by our producer at the time. He basically said, do you want to work on Far Cry 6? And I was like, sure. Thought it would be another Codev mandate, maybe. He was like, as lead. I was like, oh, holy shit, okay. The narrative director really is the person who is creating and maintaining the vision of the story for the game. So that means working with the writers, working with the other directors to make sure the vision of the game stays intact.
To me, it made sense because Ubisoft Toronto worked on several Far Cry games before. We were lucky to work on a Far Cry game, right? So everybody wants to work on a Far Cry game.
We really honed our expertise here in Toronto. Combine that with a team that knows how to deliver amazing stories.
You know, you're being given the reins of something that is so special, you know, to so many people. So you have to live up to those expectations and, you know, the expectations you've set for yourself. So yeah, I was absolutely terrified, but you know, super excited at the same time.
We want players to know that we're creating a blockbuster game for Far Cry 6, taking Far Cry to the next level from the moment you hit start.
Far Cry 6 is a game built around one core theme, Revolution. And considering our ship date falls almost to the day of the US election in November 2020, wasn't expecting that laugh. All right. The timing couldn't be more powerful for a game about igniting change.
It's always a highlight when you announce a game, when you announce this project you've been working on that people, you know, are making rumors about and trying to guess what you're doing and coming up with stories like, oh, the next Far Cry is going to be, you know, this or that, and you're just sitting there like, oh, you're so wrong.
For a story to, I think, resonate and feel unique and meaningful, it has to be personal. And so that's how we started out. My family They come from Iran. They fled Iran after the Iranian Revolution. So my parents went over to Sweden and England and had to start their life over. My aunt was murdered at the hands of the regime there that took over. So that kind of trauma, it's resonated with my family for so many years that when we landed on, okay, we want to do a revolutionary story on this, fictional island of Yara, former paradise, frozen in time, in the grip of a revolution, it all just sort of comes out.
My mother was from Colombia. She never met a fight she didn't pick. She was a revolutionary. When I came to Ubisoft, she went into palliative care. As she was in her failing health, she started to tell me more of things that she never told me, of traumas that she had. She told me about El Bogotazo, a revolution that inspired Fidel Castro, and Far Cry 6 is about revolution. This game became my love letter to her.
I was born and raised in Buenos Aires, Argentina, during the mid-70s. In those years, there was bloody military dictatorship in the country. Even if I was a kid, I have memories of how the country sounded at that time. I was taking bits and pieces of my childhood memories, my long conversations with a group of exiles in Mexico, and put everything in the cocktail thing and just spread it.
So the day I got cast, it was exciting. Yeah, it's okay. Everything has a different purpose.
So you're gonna tell me who you are?
Whoa, what's in your bag? I was a gamer. I knew about the franchise. So I was excited to experience mocap and the video game world. But then it was the content and the political aspect of it and the opportunity to tell a story in a major platform as a Cuban.
Manuel's Afro-Cuban. He's from the island. He would make trips all the time. And so I started asking him questions of like, how do you feel about this? Does this capture sort of what would be an Afro-Yaran perspective? And more he started getting involved in the writing process to the point where we started sending him Excel sheets to verify all our dialogue. And then, we were sending him art, in the game to make sure it felt truthful and authentic. And ultimately, we brought him on as a writer.
So as a consultant working with a narrative team, I saw a lot of commonalities, like common places. It would take me back to Cuba a lot. One of the main things that stayed with me, it was the Stalinish propaganda aspect of it.
One of the sounds from my childhood I remember was probably the military marches that were very present everywhere. And those things kept reverberating in my head after all these years.
South America, most countries, Argentina, Chile, Brazil, we've all gone through military dictatorships, and we've all had oppression from the government, and we've grown up in this paradise, but at the same time there's violence and there's different. So I think that all feeds the process, and it just makes sense.
Una tierra de inmensas virtudes, donde Dios ha vertido sus gracias, protegerán a tu legado. I like the chef's better. Chefs in the RCA is really good. El futuro hoy te llama.
The sounds of military marches and the national anthem of Yara, those were all designated to different musicians. My job was to get inside the characters and give them soul and tell the story through my music. Far Cry 6 has basically three main themes. We have the Libertad theme that was originally done as a theme for the Revolution. It came up on a ronroco, which is an instrument I use throughout the score, and it's a beautiful melody and it has that sense of melancholy, but it needed to be able to escalate and to represent what life in Yara is like right now.
Performance? This is really legitimate.
What is the consequence of being late?
Define the revolution. The legends. Well, I think the first thing when it came to writing the characters, it really was, a team effort. We had multiple writers on this project. Yeah. I mean, we've talked a lot about the heroes here, but what are they fighting against? Because we talked about. And these are the early explorations of Danny, trying to land on sort of the perfect character, the perfect vehicle for you. A young revolutionary, able to use anything at their disposal to fight back. What we did was we honed on the idea of, Danny Rojas being this character that would want nothing to do with the revolution. And in a lot of ways, I think a lot of us would be that person.
I keep my promises, Danny. You wanted a boat, you got a boat.
It's a beautiful piece of but it'll get you to a Yankee beach. One with the naked fatties.
You two are just gonna let me leave?
To me, anyway, it made a lot of sense. I also drew from my own family, who, a lot of them, ran from the persecution that was happening.
I feel like Danny is like my mother. My mother came to Canada, no family here, but she had to find her way. Same with Danny.
Clara Garcia, who is the leader of Libertad, really sort of embodies the ideal, the person that you kind of strive to be. And she really looks at the revolution in a very simple way, intentionally.
Free elections, free expression, free the outcasts. Ayara free of Castillos. Simple.
I watched Castillo order a whole boat of our people shot to death. Get as far away as you can from that psychopath.
All of you. A revolution is not won by the fearless.
It's won by the fear.
That was really important, was to have her as an anchor.
Order a whole boat of our people.
And to have the character of Danny to be sort of striving for that, even if they didn't realize it. And then the counterpoint, obviously, is, Anton Castillo.
So the Far Cry 6 team had been going back and forth on potential actors that, would be the best candidate for this new villain. The villain had become quite iconic in, the Far Cry universe. Casting, the big bad with any Far Cry is one of the most difficult things to do. And what was important about Anton was also making sure that this is a character that you could be swayed by. And that's really what makes a Far Cry villain a Far Cry villain. I even hesitate using the word villain. Everyone wants to say villain, it drives me crazy. It's an antagonist. It's someone with an opposite, point of view.
It's been a long winter. Something big happened yesterday, and the first instinct was, let's tell the TV guys as soon as possible. So, it's time to talk Anton.
You deserve it. And we, as lions, do what we must do to survive. We cull the herd. We are done carrying the weak.
When we started to move to Anton being Afro-Yaran as well, Then we started to really lean into someone like Giancarlo. He could bring that sort of gravitas and speak to Anton as a father, and also bring a perspective of someone who's a person of color.
Yeah, I love it. I really love the color. Wow. Do you remember the trailer? Yes. The details are fantastic. And you work such details into the eyes, too, because I see the strength, but I see fading, but I also see the question mark. You're almost there. Yeah, very impressed. Really very impressed.
All right.
Fantastic. Thank you for your work.
In a lot of ways, Anton, Clara, Danny, for me, they formed this triangle of personality that you're constantly pinging between, and that just gives you depth. That gives you depth of character. And so all of that stuff is great on paper. You know, it's great when you're in the room and you're dreaming this stuff up, but I like to say, you know, it's not real until it comes out of the actor's mouth.
Fuerzas ultrapenetrantes, estamos cansados de los farsantes, de los gigantes, uso mi arco para derribarte, a tu opresión, empezó la rebelión, aguante.
Have you done this stuff? No, never.
No estoy descansando, soy una guerrera desafiante, delante, mi paso van sacando al ignorante, con fuerza, sigo a paso firme en resistencia, esto no es ciencia, estamos en supervivencia, paciencia, con paciencia pero segura, seguimos defendiendo lo nuestro, nuestra cultura.
Narratively, in terms of characters and story, I think the team did an amazing job. We have really lovely characters, complex, and not only the villain, but also like Danny. It's something really that we wanted to have in Far Cry 6, like a real character that speaks, that has emotion, and I think we can feel that in the game.
When I first saw you, I wanted to gut you like a crocodile, but you're Montero now, Danny.
Gracias.
The characters are from the country. The characters are from Yara. They know the culture. They know the people, which I think is a really great move. And it's not just happening in Far Cry. Like, it's diversity and inclusion and representation are growing more and more. The ability to choose a male or a female Danny, and both characters are just as strong.
They got my name wrong.
I think it's really important that people get the option between a male and female character, because at the end of the day, it represents different things for different people, and by giving people that choice, it shows that we're not just having the conversation, but we're actually doing something to change it.
What's it been like to play the same character?
Would you like to answer first?
Would you like to answer first? Just like that. This is like the perfect example of how it's been.
Yeah.
Some of the things I'm most proud of on this project are not even level design related. I spent some time working with the narrative team talking about character representation because they have a trans character and they really wanted to make sure they had an earnest representation. And so they talked to me, among other people, like they didn't just find like the one trans person. They could you come and help us do this. They were really intentional about it. So we had some conversations about like the characters' motivations and what they would be dealing with.
When Papa found out I turned from his favorite daughter into a freak, his words. Just trans in the military, compai. I was lucky. Talia caught me trying to steal her gear, but instead of turning me in, she gave me a deck.
Seeing a bit of myself reflected in there, as well as just having positive representation in a game. Especially for me, is probably one of the biggest marks of pride to have some of that going on.
While we were recording the trios of Cuban music, the mixer, I recall that was back in January, beginning of February, he said, there's a strange pneumonia that I think is going to hit us at some point.
When I first heard about it, it was when we heard about it from our partners in Ubisoft Shanghai.
So we were in the middle of production, and COVID absolutely came out of nowhere. I remember, hearing whispers about it, and it's like, okay, this seems a little scary, but we never could have anticipated the effect it was going to have.
I was on set when COVID first started. I was filming, I think it was with Giancarlo. I think that was the time he was on set too. We were filming kind of like the last section of the game.
I was actually on my way to Calgary to another set. Like in the car, we all heard that Tom Hanks got it.
Yes, I remember that.
And that's when everybody, it felt that that's when actually it's just like, oh, this is real. If Tom Hanks has it, all of us will get it.
One of the memorable COVID moments we have in production is when we brought Gabilonia to Canada, to Toronto. Gabilonia is the singing character of Talia.
Falla, porque en la calle se dice que viene batalla. No tenemos miedo, mi gente no falla. Tú sabes que seguimos dando la talla. Hey, canalla, somos los llaranos, tú sabes que no se desmaya. Pasa la raya, y pero es un pueblo que arde metiendo la galla. Joe metralla.
It was pretty complicated to bring someone from Venezuela, from Caracas, into the country. When we finally achieved that, it was March 12th. We supposedly have 3 days of work. Hesitation and doubts. The message from the government wasn't clear at that point what was going on. All the rumors about, okay, there's no more flies coming in or out Canada, we are sealing the borders and everything. The people from casting approached to me and say, we won't be able to do everything we need to do with Gabilonia. We give you 1 day and we need to send her back. So it's now or never. You say, okay, vamos a echarlo, let's do it. So in the same day, we did the rehearsal, we did mock-up, we recorded 2 songs. She did also an interview for marketing. It was a quite hectic day, but she did it. She got the payment here and fly to Cuba. She was stranded in Cuba until she found a way to get in a humanitarian flight of doctors from Cuba to Venezuela.
It accelerated so fast that the last day of shooting with Giancarlo was the Friday. They shut down the studio on the Tuesday. So it hit us hard. There were so many questions of what are we going to do now? Because we still had another shoot coming. We still had voice recordings with our actors. How are you going to do mocap with an actor who's in LA that can't fly? It was a scary time. Are we going to be able to finish this thing? So this is Nav. I'm at the studio. It's about 3 weeks into COVID, and they gave us a window to pick up some of our stuff. So I'm coming to grab some things. Totally empty. And we're all keeping our distance, working from home. Here's the narrative area. And surprise, we have Nuha, one of our narrative designers.
I'm looting my right now.
She's looting her She's being careful. She's got her gloves, right? Got her mask.
Oh yeah, the biggest mask ever.
Take a little walk. This is the director's area. So people have rated their things. I am rating my keyboard and webcam and all those little handy work from home things. And as you can see, it is so creepy empty. I will tell you, I can't wait for everyone to come back so we can finish this thing. So there's your tour. Pretty crazy, huh?
And I was like, we're never gonna make it. It's like we're, I don't know, 800 people across the world working on this project and everybody's home. We didn't have the tools at that time. Like, how are we gonna do it? It's super hard.
One of the hardest things about being in a crisis is the unknown and not knowing, how to anticipate what's coming. And I think with COVID, it was probably, one of the biggest, most unprecedented situations that the world had ever faced. And so, we needed to think fast and work quickly to make sure that the teams were well supported.
Suddenly you're at home. There's no separation between work and your living room. I'd cleared out my dining table.
Working on a AAA game in the time of COVID stopped our ability to have cross-pollination between the different areas, which I really miss.
Honestly, they all bled together. All the days started to blend because I was working from home and I wasn't seeing people.
How can we continue when you have a game this big, is too big to fail, so you need to find alternatives, ways to circumvent things, even if they are as bad and terrible as a global pandemic.
The way that I would try and focus is really take moments where I would just shut everything down, silence everything, every conversation, So yes, the other thing of COVID is you got to meet everyone's pets every 3 seconds, including mine. And so a typical meeting was me doing this constantly with the cats, and you're just gonna stay up there. And then I'm gonna bring you down.
Oh my God, he's huge.
Very cute.
Yeah.
Not happy with that at all.
Interestingly enough, I think being home and not being in the office, not being pulled in 100 different directions, allowed me to focus on writing.
Danny meets Clara. Rich, if you could do Julio. And Jordan, thank you very much for this. If you could do Clara.
We needed to reevaluate how we do meetings, how we do reviews, how we work, basically.
There were a lot of challenges. Like it was learning a new skill. Like my first day as a level designer was the first day of the pandemic, like the first day we worked from home. So I had started a new job working at home. I had no experience in that role before, so I had to learn it remotely. So I can record my screen. So this is my desk. I've got all my notebooks. I've got our Far Cry 6 mouse pad that you can now see how dirty my life is. Yeah, this is my work setup. Like I feel naked. It took a lot of time to kind of adjust to being in this space every day by myself. Got a nice monitor though.
COVID played a big role, the way I perceived those sounds during isolation. Working in the studio, you make breaks, you talk to a friend, you have a walk. Working from my bedroom and listening machine guns, explosion, grenades, and not having anywhere to go, that created an additional mental burden. I want to get outside, I want to get out of here, go to a quiet place.
So I think the thing with COVID is, it opened my eyes to the capacity we all have to understand each other, to work with each other, to support each other.
1, 2, 3. Happy
birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Paul! And George!
That was clear, though. That was
so
I
good.
saw what you meant.
It took some time, but at some point, it clicked, and we were back to our normal productivity, and it felt amazing. And now, we know how to work from home now.
One of the other things that was great was that, we got more time. And that was to make sure we were all shipping healthily and we had the time we needed to finish.
Some people were able to work better. We discovered different ways to handle things. That has really brought a sense of solidarity in the team because we have to keep on keeping on. There's concerns, there's things that can go wrong, but it, we gotta get it done.
Now we're fucking talking.
All right. Hey everyone, I'm really excited to do our first team meeting since we've been working from home. So I think we have right now 700 people connected from all studios, so Shanghai, Montreal, Toronto, Kiev, and Berlin.
We went from 4,000 people in Montreal working in the office to 4,000 people working from home.
So here is the Kiev update.
So greetings from sunny Berlin.
Hello everyone, this is the greeting from Shanghai team, and as you might know that Shanghai team has already passed the working from home status.
So I think one of the big differences of how we approached production on Far Cry 6 was that we had more of a council at the top, in terms of direction. Because it was a very unique situation, we were also able to have the support of someone like Dan Hay, who's the executive producer of the brand, was the creative director of Far Cry 5, who was super supportive as well. I always, and still do, have seen Dan as a bit of a mentor.
Within the teams themselves, there was a real determination. We're just gonna do this, and we're gonna make it amazing.
And man, when we came back to shoot, that was an experience because we shot right in the heart of COVID, just over there. Limited on set, so you had only a few people allowed on the mocap stage. You'd have to keep distance, so 6 feet. Imagine, how do you shoot a scene when you have 4 people talking to each other? It was madness, but we got through it. We had an amazing team.
So 5 minutes ago, we called our official rap on Tetra cinematic.
Cheers! Cheers, you guys.
It's been 5 years to get to this day. I've been thinking a lot this week, all the way back to, there's a server room over there where 10 of us were sitting. It was very sweaty. Stephanie, you might have been there as well. And to get to hundreds of people around the world working on this thing. We're gonna look at some reviews. I think the main thing is keep it zen. The most important thing, I think, is to remember the bonds we created with each other through this thing. That's what you'll remember.
I kind of want to see what EDM has.
Far Cry 6 is without a doubt Ubisoft's most ambitious entry into the series.
Far Cry 6 is a non-stop thrill ride from start to finish, delivering a wide variety of activities to pursue within its bounds.
I'm enjoying Omar. I kind of like people saying open world planet at its worst.
Let me summarize. Far Cry 6 is the perfect definition of what a new game on an established saga should do.
This is a 5-year journey that we've been on.
It's really special. Just seeing how many people tried really hard to make this a great game. Is it perfect? No. We know that. We're not idiots.
I have to say that this was the best project, probably of my life, in 30 years of making audio.
And here's to shipping Far Cry 6.
De libertad y permanece guiarnos para luchar contra el régimen dictatorial. ¡Salud, libertad! Ya no esté con nosotros.
Now I get like more
You know how hard these folks have worked, and you know how much of themselves they've put into this. Through COVID, through everything, and to just hear them laugh, was, I'm gonna need a sec. To just hear them laugh and have a good time and not think about all the stress and issues that are kind of facing them every day. I'll cherish that forever, to be honest. Doesn't matter what happens with the game, how well it does. Like, that was, it was just amazing to be a part of. You got me to cry.
Damn it. De lograr libertad, nuestra ya hará unir en paz.